got 5 classes this semester,
Got it.
so there's
I got it. I just want to make sure
all those classes.
I'm not tanking or
and
stuff like that. So
like yesterday, I spent 6 hours grading one assignment for one class because so many people had plagiarized, and so I have to go through and find where they've taken it from and notate all that.
got it.
So when people do better work and don't cheat, it goes quicker.
Got it.
But yes, so I'm working on it. Yeah, and you should be able to see where your grade stands, and as long as you look over the feedback,
Yeah.
that should be perfect.
And
Absolutely.
I understand what the rhetoric really means now after really diving into it and how
Yes.
you process my paper.
Yes.
I said, oh, now I understand what you really mean about this. So I try to be original with everything, and I do put quotation marks in that because now I understand the logistics of that.
Okay.
Now, the only problem that I'm still having is sometimes I can hear an error in writing, and sometimes I can't. So I have come to the conclusion is to take a tape recorder and record myself when I'm writing your paper.
Right.
When I listen to myself, then I can catch.
Okay.
And then once I catch it, I still go to the tutor and we go over it again.
Right.
And then I find I'm making less mistakes. I'm still making mistakes, but not as much
Right.
as I was in the beginning.
Right.
So between the two, that helps me out tremendously.
Yeah, it takes practice. Absolutely.
But I learned things that I didn't know in high school, and I don't remember them teaching me certain things. So
Yep.
that was a bothersome for me because certain things I should have gotten at in high school
Yep.
or middle school, and I didn't get that.
Yep. Yeah. So, and who knows? Obviously, in my case, that's a long time ago.
It is.
And I don't necessarily recall.
Well, English was my favorite because, okay, I went to an all-girls school.
Right.
Okay. So in all-girls school, we're required to do certain things. So I'm required to go to a play.
Mm-hmm.
I must write about the play.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go to an opera.
Right.
I had to explain it.
Right.
And I thought I was okay
Yeah.
in my writing skills for that time.
Right.
But as I've gotten older, and plus being in the military, they make us write in third persons and everything else. So that's going to take me a while to decompress anyway.
Right.
But I don't remember my teacher really coming at me the way you come at me, which is fine. And then
Right.
Scott comes at, I like it. No issues there.
Right.
So now I have to now think about how I'm writing, the tense I'm writing it in, make sure that I'm in the right tense, and I realize all that now.
Right.
And I'm mad with the Board of Education, technically, because you bring these kids out here, and they still are having issues,
Right.
and they have not improved.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't have enough experience with current state of
Do.
middle school and high school. Now I do know that there are a fairly significant amount of people in this area for whom English is not their first language. And the amazing thing about that to me is that people can speak English correctly and fluently
Right.
and not read or write it.
Okay.
I often feel that they are not kept in ESOL in high school long enough.
Got it.
And I think that is a combination of being their fault and the school's fault. The school not wanting to probably spend the money on the programs that they should,
Right.
which actually I think lies at the feet of the principals because it's up to them how they spend their money for their staff.
Correct.
And I think also as a student, you probably want to get out of there and into regular classes as soon as possible.
Right.
But that does mean there are people who cannot write
Right.
in English. I come across people who are college aged, who cannot, like, this does not make sense. These words do not fit this way together. So I do know there's that going on. And then, I'm sure that there are schools that just pass people along. They're not interested as much in actually what they know.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. I've been deployed and I was gone for quite some time. So my husband was the mother and the father of my boys. So one of my boys was a straight student, never had to worry about him.
Right.
My second child was struggling.
Right.
So when I came home after 2 years, I realized my son couldn't read certain things. And this was like third grade level. But I'm saying, okay, Jarvis, did you make your son read out loud at night when I used to?
Right.
Now I don't have the time. I'm both parents. I said, okay.
Right.
So then I said, Evan, I need you to take this Dick and Jane book.
Yeah.
And I need you to read Dick and Jane for me.
Yeah.
I have all my school books.
Right.
He was struggling.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, well, let me tell you what's going to happen. I need to go to the Board of Education, and I need to tell you that you're not going to the 4th grade.
Right.
So he said, what? You can't go any beyond this until I make sure that we handle this.
Right.
So my son was upset.
Yeah.
My husband was upset.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, you can't go any further because you're going to get lost in the sauce.
Yep.
So I went to the school. The school told me, no, you can't do that. I said, okay, not a problem.
Right.
So I said, I had another meeting. This time, they never met my husband.
Yeah.
I made my lawyer my husband.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation again.
Yeah.
So then when they said it to me the second time, and I had everyone, I had the superintendent, I had everyone in that one room.
Right.
And they all said the same thing. But they couldn't show me in the school rules or the policy, education policy, that I, as a parent, cannot ask for that.
Right.
The school has to state that.
Right.
I said, but he's not reading up to a level. Well, he'll catch up. I said, no. So after we finished, I said, let me introduce you to, here's my lawyer.
Yeah.
And that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
Now everyone shut down.
Yeah.
I said, okay, Mrs. Williams, what do you want? I need a teacher to tutor my son all year round. We're going to repeat the 3rd grade. I need him to be at the 5th grade level when he gets to the 4th grade.
Yeah.
For the next year. So I held my son back because of that.
Yeah.
And I made DeKalb County pay for that extra tutoring.
Yep.
I had no choice.
Nope.
So, going forward, now he's reading fluently, he's doing well.
Yeah.
Now he was still mad. When he turned 21, he finally told me how he really, truly felt.
Yeah.
But then I said, did I do anything wrong? Because now you have no issues.
Right.
Just because you graduated a year later, passed your class. But are you having any issues currently? No.
Yeah.
That's why you still mad.
Yeah. When were you going to learn it?
Right.
It only gets harder.
And that's what I said. So I said, at the end, I said, I'm only a mother. I'm going to get this right one time.
Yeah.
I am not going to sit up here and worry about you throughout life that you can't read and write.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, in my case, I said, well, I'm having some difficulties in this English class now. I'm struggling, but I have a tutor. I've been doing everything I'm supposed to do, and I'm learning because I want to learn and I want to do this the right way.
Yeah.
So at the end, my son now understood, and he apologized. I think he waited till he was 25 to apologize, but I was okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the end of the day, you realize that I wanted you to do well.
Yes.
And as parents, I don't understand why parents, if I wasn't deployed so many times, I'd have been that parent sitting in my son's classes.
Yeah.
Because my mother sat in some of our classes.
Yeah.
So I wish I could afford that opportunity, but I couldn't.
Right.
So at the end, the only way I can make this up is make sure that the DeKalb County is going to treat you and
Right.
give you
Yes.
a fair shake in life.
Yes.
Because that's their job, and I pay school taxes,
Yes.
which is $1,200 a year,
Right.
and I want my $1,200. So
Yeah. Yeah. They should make sure people can read and write. That's for sure. Well, okay. So I thought since that what we do today is look at another TED Talk, and this one has it's about psychology, but it actually has some to do with forming an argument.
okay.
So presenting yourself, being persuasive, which is a lot of what business writing is. and then we can go over a paragraph for this.
I'm gonna take this off. I'm just gonna stick this on.
Yep.
Imagine you're on a shopping trip. You've been looking for a luxury line of dinnerware set to add to your kitchen collection. As it turns out, your local department store has announced a sale on the very set you've been looking for. So you rush to the store to find a 24-piece set on sale. 8 dinner plates.
So I will say he's a little bit dry. He tries to be funny
Okay.
a couple places, but he's going to talk about what this is. So he's a psychologist.
Okay.
I think he teaches at the University of London.
Okay.
And he does experiments, like research.
Okay.
Not like, let's hook you up to wires, but if you were presented in this situation or that situation, a lot of surveys and that sort of things. And so he's going to share the results of some of his research, and then other people too, that he has worked with.
Okay.
And it will have to do about persuasive arguments by the time he's done.
Gotcha.
All in good condition. 8 soup and salad bowls, all in good condition. And 8 dessert plates, all in good condition. Now consider for a moment how much you would be willing to pay for this dinnerware set. Now imagine an alternate scenario. Not having seen this 24-piece luxury set, you rush to the store to find a 40-piece dinnerware set on sale. 8 dinner plates, all in good condition. 8 soup and salad bowls, all in good condition. 8 dessert plates, all in good condition. 8 cups, 2 of them are broken. 8 saucers, 7 of them are broken. Now consider for a moment how much you would be willing to pay for this 40-piece dinner set. This is the premise of a clever experiment by Christopher C. from the University of Chicago. It's also the question that I've asked hundreds of students in my classroom. What were their responses? On average, when afforded the 24-piece luxury set, they were willing to spend £390 for the set. When afforded the 40-piece dinnerware set, on average, they were willing to spend a whopping £192 for the dinnerware set. Strictly speaking, these are an irrational set of numbers. You'll notice the 40-piece dinnerware set includes all elements you would get in the 24-piece set, plus 6 cups and 1 saucer. And not only are you not willing to spend what you will for the 24-piece set, you're only willing to spend roughly half of what you will for that 24-piece set. What you're witnessing here is what's referred to as the dilution effect.
Okay, so he
dilute £90 for the set.
So he's starting to talk about, it's called the dilution effect, but I just want to point this out because he is not going to come back to this slide. So they asked people, let's say you're shopping for plates.
Okay.
You go to the store, and they've got the boxes, right?
Right.
And they've got an 8-piece set.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a 24-piece set,
Right.
but it's 3 pieces, and there's 8 of each. You have a dinner plate, a bowl, and a dessert plate.
Okay.
And so they asked people, how much would you pay for this? Like, what do you think a good price would be, or a fair price?
Okay.
And they say almost 400 pounds.
Okay. Which is?
That's a lot of money.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
That's going to be around 600 American.
Okay.
This must be nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And I would have no idea how much that would cost. I haven't bought plates in 30 years. So.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then they say, okay, well, imagine this. You go to the store, and what they have is a 40-piece set, but some pieces are broken.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You get 8 dinner plates, 8 salad bowls, 8 dessert plates, 6 cups, 1 saucer.
Right.
What would you pay for that?
I wouldn't pay anything because I wouldn't buy it.
Okay? And so you would fit right in. That's what these people say.
Right.
192.
Right.
So less than half of what they would pay
Got it.
for a 24-piece set. But look at this. you get the whole 24-piece set
You
here,
do. You do.
plus 6 cups and a saucer. So that's what the way he said, this is an irrational set of numbers.
It is.
It does not make sense that it seems like you pay at least this, right?
Right.
Because you're getting a couple extra pieces, 7 to be
Right.
accurate. But that's not what people think. And so he's about to talk about why it's called the dilution effect.
Okay.
So these broken pieces, in most people's minds, dilute the value of the good pieces.
Yeah, yes.
So even though you're getting this same set that you would have paid roughly 400 pounds for, you won't do that for more pieces because its value has been watered down
Correct.
by the broken pieces, by thinking I'm getting something janky.
Right.
You know, I'm getting, it's broken. It's a broken set.
Right, but then I look at it as this. If I have a broken set, I gotta glue that thing together. I don't have the time to be gluing stuff
Right.
together.
Except, now what's funny about this is if you've been willing to buy this,
Right.
then you should be willing to buy this because you're getting this plus more.
Yes.
So you're not even, theoretically, you're not even worried about the broken pieces.
That's true too.
And but that's the whole point. This is not logical.
That's not.
This is about the way people feel,
True.
which, of course, is part of forming a persuasive argument. Not to harp on the ex-president, but I guarantee you there are a large percentage of people, the reasons they give for voting for him are not logical. They are about a feeling.
Correct.
And so that's a lot of what persuasion is. So now we'll let him start talking about the dilution effect. And he talks about, or he just mentioned that this was an experiment that was invented or created by a teacher at the University of Chicago, which is a very good school. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, you're about to have number 7 right here.
Okay.
And then we did one last week, right?
Yes.
So I don't think we finished the paragraph, but you can use that one. So that'll be 8. And then I understand that there may not be 10 TED Talks on your field. So even if you just want to get something that has to do with some aspect of this class, whether it's communication or argument or rhetoric, like this gentleman is a psychologist. But this talk is about persuasive argument. It will be when he finishes, at least one aspect of the persuasive argument.
For the 40-piece dinnerware set, on average, they were willing to spend a whopping 192 pounds for this dinnerware set. Strictly speaking, these are an irrational set of numbers. You'll notice the 40-piece dinnerware set includes all elements you would get in the 24-piece set, plus 6 cups and 1 saucer. And not only are you not willing to spend what you will for the 24-piece set, you're only willing to spend roughly half of what you will for that 24-piece set. What you're witnessing here is what's referred to as the dilution effect. The broken items, if you will, dilute our overall perceived value of that entire set. Turns out this cognitive quirk at the checkout counter has important implications for our ability to be heard and listened to when we speak up. Whether you are speaking up against a failing strategy, speaking against the grain of a shared opinion among friends, or speaking truth to power, this takes courage. Often, the points that are raised are both legitimate, but also shared by others. But sadly, and far too often, we see people speak up, but fail to influence others in the way that they had hoped for. Put another way, their message was sound, but their delivery proved faulty.
So he said their message was sound, but their delivery proved faulty. And so he's going to talk about why that is or how that happens in this particular set of circumstances. But that would be, and this is actually a, advice supported by research about what to and what not to include in your argument. Whereas a lot of what we have talked about is knowing your audience, that you would present, you would almost speak or write in a different way depending on who the audience is. But this will be actually about what to include.
If we could understand this cognitive bias, it holds important implications for how we could craft and mold our messages to have the impact we all desire, to be more influential as a communicator. Let's exit the aisles of the shopping center and enter a context in which we practice almost automatically every day, the judgment of others. Let me introduce you to two individuals. Tim studies 31 hours a week outside of class. Tom, like Tim, also spends 31 hours outside of class studying. He has a brother and two sisters. He visits his grandparents. He once went on a blind date, plays pool every 2 months. When participants are asked to evaluate the cognitive aptitude of these individuals, or more importantly, their scholastic achievement, on average, people rate Tim to have a significantly higher GPA than that of Tom. But why? After all, both of them spend 31 hours a week outside of class. Turns out, in these contexts, when we're presented such information, our minds utilize two categories of information: diagnostic and non-diagnostic. Diagnostic information is information of relevance to the evaluation that is being made. Non-diagnostic is information that is irrelevant or inconsequential to that valuation. And when both categories of information are mixed, dilution occurs. The very fact that Tom has a brother and two sisters or plays pool every two information that is irrelevant, you spend 31 of these individuals or a blind date, click.
Okay, so he's calling the information diagnostic and non-diagnostic. Of course, diagnostic would be what you need to diagnose the issue, right? And diagnostic, you don't need it. As he calls it, it's either irrelevant or inconsequential. And so the question here was specifically, and I bet they asked what they guessed the person's GPA would be. So in this information, so for this person, this is all the information you have. Now for this person, that's all the information that matters when it comes to GPA. Now, you might think, oh, this person's too busy or whatever, but this actually has no direct bearing on trying to figure out what his GPA might be. He is spending the exact same amount of time studying. This doesn't even say he spends time with his brother and sisters. It just says he has them. Now it says he often visits his grandparents. I don't know what that would be, a couple times a week maybe. But let's think about this too. It's not as if his grandparents are probably convincing him to go out and stay out late and get high, right? If anything, they probably want him to succeed at school. He went on a blind date once. It could have been 10 years ago for all we know. Once again, inconsequential. And then he plays pool once every 2 months. Well, you'd expect a person to do something occasionally, whether it's play pool or watch TV or go to a movie. So this stuff really shouldn't have any bearing on what you predict his GPA will be. But it does. What he talks about is we don't, unless we are sort of trained to do this, we will not look at this information and say, this is the only relevant piece of information. What we will do is take all of that information and it dilutes it, or we come up with an average, right? So this, the top one, that's a check mark, right? It goes in the pro column for having a GPA, a high GPA. This other stuff we would probably think would take away from that. So it dilutes the effect of the good, of the consequential, of the diagnostic. Whereas over here, you don't have that happening. You only have the diagnostic evidence. So it stands by itself, featured prominently, carrying sort of a heavy weight. It's more meaningful because it's not watered down or diluted or averaged out, however you want to think about it. So that's what he's talking about here. And it's the same principle. You know, that would be the 24 pieces of dinnerware that are not from a set that has broken pieces. Even though the broken pieces are inconsequential to the price as compared to the other one, the non-broken.
Utilize two categories of information: diagnostic and non-diagnostic. Diagnostic information is information of relevance to the evaluation that is being made. Non-diagnostic is information that is irrelevant or inconsequential to that evaluation. And when both categories of information are mixed, dilution occurs. The very fact that Tom has a brother and two sisters or plays pool every 2 months dilutes the diagnostic information, or more importantly, dilutes the value and weight of that diagnostic information, namely that he studies 31 hours a week outside of class. The most robust psychological explanation for this is one of averaging. In this model, we take in information, and those information are afforded a weighted score.
And so in the example of the students, you only have a strong argument. That's the only thing. So the average of that one strong argument is heavier or more important than the average of strong argument plus weak argument, right? Now, and this has nothing to do with this talk, but you could think to yourself, well, how am I going to frame this argument? You could say, instead of visits his grandparents, goes to play pool, has brothers and sisters, went on a date, you could say, Tom is very skilled at managing his time. So then maybe you have two pieces of strong evidence that will have a stronger average weight than just the one piece of strong evidence.
And our minds do not add those pieces of information, but rather average those pieces of information. So when you introduce irrelevant or even weak arguments, those weak arguments, if you will, reduce the weight of your overall argument. A few years ago, I landed in Philadelphia one August evening for a conference.
Before he gets into this, I will say, I think it's human nature to sort of, when you're trying to convince somebody of something or talk somebody into something, to think, oh, I need to have like another argument to add to this. But the point he's making is that may not be true. You know, if you're trying to say that you know, you shouldn't buy new plates, and your significant other wants new plates, so you might say, well, they're too expensive, and we already have plates, and I don't like flower patterns, right? So you may have weakened your argument of they're too expensive. So you may just want to stick with the one strong piece. Like, that's too expensive. We won't be able to pay rent. Boom. Because I really do think it is human nature to try to pile on as many reasons as possible. But that may not be the best strategy. And so he's about to get into this in a big way.
Having just gotten off a transatlantic flight, I checked into my hotel room, put my feet up, and decided to distract my jet lag with some TV. An ad caught my attention. The ad was an ad for a pharmaceutical drug. Now, if you're in the select few who've not had the pleasure of witnessing these ads, the typical architecture of these ads is you might see a happy couple prancing through their garden, reveling in the joy that they got a full night's sleep with the aid of the sleep drug. Because of FDA regulations, the last few seconds of this 1-minute ad needs to be devoted to the side effects of that drug. And what you'll typically hear is a hurried voiceover that blurts out, side effects include heart attack, stroke, blah, 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 and will end with something like itchy feet. Guess what itchy feet does to people's risk assessment of heart attack and stroke? It dilutes it. Imagine for a moment an alternate commercial that says, this drug cures your sleep problems, side effects are heart attack and stroke. Stop. Now all of a sudden you're thinking, I don't mind staying up all night. Turns out going to sleep is important, but so is waking up. Let me give you a sample from our research. So this ad that I witnessed essentially triggered a research project with my PhD student Hemant over the next 2 years. And in one of these studies, we presented participants an actual print ad that appeared in a magazine. You will notice the last line is devoted to the side effects of this drug. For half of the participants, we showed the ad in its entirety, which included both major side effects as well as minor side effects. To the other half of the participants, we showed the same ad with one small modification. We extracted just 4 words out of the sea of text. Specifically, we extracted the minor side effects. And then both participants, or both sets of participants, rated that drug. What we find is that individuals who were exposed to both the major side effects as well as the minor side effects rated the drug's overall severity to be significantly lower than those who were only exposed to the major side effects. Furthermore, they also showed greater attraction towards consuming this drug. In a follow-up study, we even find that individuals are willing to pay more to buy the drug which they were exposed to that had both major side effects as well as minor side effects compared to just major side effects alone. So it turns out pharmaceutical ads, by listing both major side effects as well as minor side effects, paradoxically dilute participants and potential consumers' overall risk assessment of that drug. Going beyond shopping expeditions, going beyond the evaluation of the scholastic aptitude of others, and beyond sort of evaluating risk in our environment. What this body of research tells us is that in the world of communicating for the purposes of influence, quality trumps quantity. By increasing the number of arguments, you do not strengthen your case, but rather you actively weaken it. Put another way, you cannot increase the quality of an argument by simply increasing the quantity of your argument. The next time you want to speak up in a meeting, speak in favor of a government legislation that you're deeply passionate about, or simply want to help a friend see the world through a different lens. It is important to note that the delivery of your message is every bit as important as its content. Stick to your strong arguments, because your arguments don't add up in the minds of the receiver, they average out. Thank you.
Okay, so I know we've all seen drug commercials like those. And sometimes it's like, yeah, I guess on the antidepressant drugs, suicide is a side effect. And, you're whatever, vacuuming the house and that's on the TV. And it's kind of like, well, what? Like, why would I take a drug that's going to make me want to commit suicide? Now, one other aspect of this, and obviously he is more concerned about the structure of an argument, like what is going to make for an effective argument. But wouldn't it make way more sense if they told us what percentage of people had the side effects, right? And which side effects? Like he said, itchy feet. Now, if they said if you take this drug, there's a 0.00001% chance of a heart attack, I'm like, okay. And there's a 99% chance of itchy feet. Okay, well, I mean, what are we talking about here? Do my feet itch 24 hours a day? If that's almost 100% chance, I don't think I'm down with that. That would be irritating, wouldn't it? So more information would be helpful to us. Also, I wonder, and I should look this up, are the drug companies required to list every side effect? Or only ones that occur a percentage of time?
It's a percentage.
Or do they have this same information that Dr. What is his name? Savatana, I think? Savanathan has. And like, hey, we're going to list 6 of these because we know it's going to make the worst one seem less bad. So people will be more likely. That's what he said. People were more likely to think the drug did not have severe side effects, more likely to think it was effective, and they were willing to pay more. So people are being manipulated by the information that they're given. So, and I hate to be cynical and think that the drug companies know this and are doing this on purpose, but I'm cynical and I think drug companies know this and they're doing it on purpose.
To make a profit.
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, his final, in the final analysis, what he's saying is that the quality of the argument is way more important than the quantity. And so if you have one great point and 2 bad ones, maybe don't even use the bad ones, And that's something that you will develop kind of a skill for. Which of these arguments are strong, which are not. What if you have one strong and one medium? I don't know. Now, if it's going against just one other strong, then I think your average is probably still less than that. So anyway, that, and it does seem counterintuitive, right? Which is part of this title. You would think, the more reasons I have, the better. No, it's more about the more good reasons that you have, the better. And I had mentioned earlier, I'm going to have to leave in about 4 minutes, so we'll look at a paragraph of this real quick. The Modern Language Association, MLA, that we have talked about, is coming up with a new format. So I think it comes out next month. So I was invited to attend a webinar to get a preview of what the format's going to be. So if there's
impact us.
Well, I don't think I'd make you change what you're doing this semester. I think that would be unfair. But I will get, if these are major changes, I will give you the information, just so that you can have it. A lot of times it's not necessarily about the way a paper looks, but it's about the parts of a works cited page, how we do those, and just a little history with that. So right now we're in MLA 8. So next month will be MLA 9. This started in like 1970, I think, 1968 or 1970. Not necessarily the MLA, but a guide as to how to do this stuff. And the first guide was like a pamphlet. It was like 30 some odd pages, right? So MLA 7 was over 300. So their main goal with MLA 8 was, let's make this book shorter. And they did. It's also way more vague. So people were very confused about what they wanted to do was kind of just give you a template. And so this is what you do. But there's so many different things you might need to cite, and they're changing all the time, right? When MLA 8 came out, which I think was 2015, maybe 14, Spotify was not a big deal, right? And now you're getting your music from some kind of streaming service, probably. So anyway, and your podcasts, blah, blah, blah. And they also made some things more difficult, which seemed silly. So anyway, I'll let you know what happens. And we're almost out of time, so I will. Let me get your names first of all, everyone's last name, so I can send you this paragraph and we'll take a real quick look at it. So last names are,
Williams.
okay.
Robinson.
I'm sorry?
Robinson.
Okay.
Smiley.
Okay, so I will send these. I'll probably wait till I get back to the office, so don't panic. But we'll take a quick look at it. Actually, I'll probably do it right now because I can. Does anyone have any questions while I'm doing this? I'm sorry? No, what did they add?
Finna, Finna.
Okay, I'm Finna, yep.
And I can believe that. It was like in the contraction for 52.
Yep.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I agree. Oh,
I didn't either.
And I just blew it off saying, I'm not going to read
It's crazy. Yeah. I do not want to get
and now do you know which dictionary they were talking about?
Yeah, it was the website.
Okay, so now Webster's not our official.
Right.
So, well, the Merriam-Webster. Is that the one? Because there's Webster's and then Merriam-Webster's.
This was Miriam.
Okay, that is the official.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I didn't entertain it. I looked at it and said, I'm done.
Now, you know what that's going to be good for? Scrabble.
Ah,
Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm always interested, and that's kind of the point too. When we talked about, the way that we craft sentences, things like that are just like new words are according to what people do. Yeah, and so over time now, actually, how we craft sentences will take longer than just words. But over time, it is possible that words do disappear, but that parts of speech might disappear, or the way we use them will change. So it's good that you're paying attention to what's going on in that world. So I just sent you the example, and we'll look at it real fast. Although nothing we do on these computers is very fast.
Well, I had a problem. I couldn't get into my email. I had to come to school early this morning because I was trying to figure out why I couldn't get on.
Google is, the problem.
Yeah, 'cause
Yes. Yes, Google,
Yeah,
Yep.
it's Google.
Android phones.
Right.
I could not
Yep.
access no
I couldn't ask, and I couldn't send
Yep.
him anything, and I couldn't do. So I had to come to school, and they had to help me with all this.
So we've got the, it's got the format where you can put in your name and my name and the class name. And that's the due date there. This is the information about the TED Talk, and this just says that Nero Savanathan delivers a TED Talk at the London Business School in May 2019 that addresses what he calls the dilution effect. Whether a set is made up of concrete items or intangible items like ideas, the dilution effect tells us that the weaker items dilute the effectiveness of the stronger items in the set. One of my favorite quotes in the talk is about quality versus quantity. What this body of research tells us is that in the world of communicating for the purposes of influence, quality trumps quantity. I liked this quote because, as Savannah Than demonstrated with his example using dinnerware, it is important to keep quality and quantity in mind. This TED Talk is useful as a receiver of information to help one avoid being influenced unduly by the dilution effect, and as a sender of information, it can help one be more persuasive.
I got it, I see it in my email.
And see right here, this W is in brackets because in his text, that is a lowercase w, but this is a complete sentence here, and so we need that to be a uppercase W, and that is how our reader knows that, because I've put it in brackets. That is a signal to your reader that, hey, I've changed this, but that's all I've done to it. If I needed to add a word, and it can be okay to add words that don't change meaning. Like if I had wanted to add the word that to that sentence instead of which, that would be okay because it's not going to change the meaning. What you can't do is change the meaning. I would put the whole word that in brackets because it's not in the original text. And that lets the reader know, hey, this word wasn't in here originally. I put this word in here. I added this word so that this will make grammatical sense as I quote this in my paper or my speech. Okay, any other questions?
Can I see my TED Talk tomorrow? Just do it on the Sunday and call it a day.
Yeah, I probably won't have time.